All it took was a few seconds with the title alone, and I've probably already lost your attention, and that pretty much sums up the why. In our research on plastic waste, we realized that indifference itself is the biggest obstacle. People and even companies just don't have a reason to care. And that realization on its own helped shape how our entire project began. When my team first explored climate-related problems, we looked at several sectors that includes construction, automotive, and even textiles. But after mapping out Europe's plastic flow, the numbers made the decision for us. Every year, Europe produces around 59 million tons of plastic, and nearly 40% of it goes straight into packaging, mostly single-use plastics. And yet only about 27% of that waste is ever recycled. The rest is burned for energy or landfilled. So while everyone talks about circularity, over 80% of Europe's plastics are still virgin fossil-based polymers. That imbalance convinced us to focus on single-use packaging in the fast-moving consumer goods sector, where plastic waste happens the fastest and is often done even within weeks of production. Our goal became clear: to understand why single-use plastics persist and how we can make sustainability essentially more feasible, economically more practical, more affordable, and more accessible for both businesses and consumers. I personally looked into distributors and manufacturers who sit in the middle of the system. I interviewed former accounting and materials analysts from PepsiCo bottling franchise, and circular economy analysts who I reached on LinkedIn. And what I found was that the sustainability decisions aren't blocked by lack of technology, rather they are blocked by finance logic and feasibility. Compostable or bio-based packaging can cost up to 3 times more than PET. Even a 2% cost increase can ripple through a global supply chain. So companies run cost-benefit analysis that favor small incremental fixes like bottle lightweighting or minimal recycled PET instead of real actual material change. Supply chains for alternatives are rather unstable, and the shelf life testing is slow, and the concept of shelf life was something that was consistently emphasized within my research, and compliance with safety standards is also really expensive. Another pattern I found was scale versus motivation. Large FMCG producers can absorb small inefficiencies, but rather smaller manufacturers cannot, so they avoid sustainable materials altogether. And since consumers rarely demand sustainable options because they don't need to, there's little pressure to change. When I connected these interviews with our dataset and our market research, 32 million tons of post-consumer plastic collected in Europe in 2022, but only 8.7 million tons recycled, it became clear that the system isn't technologically stuck, it's psychologically and economically stuck. So my biggest personal takeaway is that solving plastic waste isn't just a materials problem, it's a behavioral economics problem. Until sustainability makes financial and emotional sense to the people running these systems, circularity will remain more of a buzzword than an actual balance. So moving forward, our team is going to focus on how to cut plastic waste at the source, especially within packaging systems, and finding solutions to make it more economically feasible for large distributors and manufacturers, and to make a real environmental impact.